Void Mage Gamer is now partnered with Flipside Gaming, so you can use the promo code on their website, all caps Void Mage, to get 10% off all orders $10 or more. It's a great way that you can support both Flipside Gaming and Void Mage Gamer's channel. Hello guys, welcome back to another Commander Deck Tech video. Changing it up again. After last week, we did all of the Commander options from Guilds of Ravnica. Well, not all of them, but those were the poll options. I decided to change it up again, and it looks like they really wanted me to do Squee the Immortal, more so than any of the other options there. I haven't done one yet. I've talked about Squee, I've talked about the underrated value engine that Squee the Immortal is. Just a ridiculously fun commander to play around with, not a strong one. The upside is that you can build the deck on a budget. Most mono red decks in the format happen to be budget decks. They're just kind of weird, they're fun to play with, and it's not a type of deck that you want to play in a competitive environment. But that being said, there's a huge benefit from being sort of the underdog at the table, and Squee the Immortal is quite the underdog, both in the lore and actually as a commander. Most people are just going to expect you to do some sort of janky shit. It usually doesn't amount to anything super crazy, but being able to play your commander over and over again from either the graveyard, exile for just 3 mana, most of the time that's what it's going to be, unless your opponents throw some sort of enchantment like Song of the Dryads. Anything that will actually imprison Squee or change what he actually is like that will keep him from going to the graveyard or to exile. If Squee gets bounced to your hand, it's just as good as casting him from your graveyard, so you don't really care about that. And if he would shuffle back into your deck, you can just use the tuck rule and put him in the command zone, which just kind of suck, but most of the time he's going to be 3 mana. Now, what I really wanted to do initially looking at Squee the Immortal, I wanted to build some sort of chaos deck. I love chaos because another favorite commander of mine, Norin the Wary, also mono red, also kind of that crazy underdog kind of appearance. Most people aren't going to take him seriously at first until they find out, or if they already know what he does. He can be pretty intimidating at that point. We do have some elements of chaos in here, but that's just what I would call typical red. You have things like Wild Ricochet. Also have things like Impact Tremors that can be pretty deadly. I wouldn't say it's too chaotic though. A lot of the stuff in the deck is actually pretty good when you're looking at equipments, when you're looking at Goblin Tribal, taking advantage of your commander as a constant source of fodder. It's quite fun, especially when we have things like Skull Clamp. Conveniently, Squee is 1 toughness, and with any other commander, Skull Clamp is useless. With Squee the Immortal, you want him to die. You actually want him to go to the graveyard, so Skull Clamp is amazing in the deck. And this goes along with other sack outlets such as Ashnod's Altar. You could play Trading Post to get some value, get your artifacts back from your graveyard by constantly sacrificing your Squee. And we do have a Skirk Prospector just to get some red mana in there. And it is Sacrifice a Goblin, so you could sacrifice Skirk Prospector if you're desperate and you need more mana. Very amazing card in the deck. I know it may be harder for some people to view him as a sack outlet, but Siege Gang Commander, for 2 mana you can sacrifice a Goblin and shock something. Probably the most underrated thing about the card. You also get Goblins too. Those are just ways that we can get rid of Squee the Immortal, get some value for him. And since Squee's going to be dying and coming back, you want to take advantage of that in some cool ways. So we have the Desecrated Tomb from M19. Whenever 1 or more creature cards leaves your graveyard, you're going to create a 1/1 black bat creature token with flying. Actually quite relevant. I know it may not seem like it, but you can cast Squee multiple times in the same turn, end up getting a ton of bats. So while you may not be the most intimidating deck at the table, you could definitely grind some games out. We also have Flayer of the Hatebound, going to be coming back over and over again, so our Squee's going to be dealing 2 damage to a target. Flayer himself is also pretty deadly with the Undying, so kind of hard to get rid of. But the rest of the deck is going to be, for the most part, equipment, or ways to synergize with equipments. So in addition to Skull Clamp, which is more of a utility card, we're going to be playing things that make him massive. Black Blade Reforged, +1/+1 for each land you control, and it only costs 3 mana to equip it to Squee. Hero's Blade is really awesome because we don't even have to pay any equip costs. Squee's going to enter the battlefield and immediately get that +3/+2. Same thing goes for Ronin War Club. Not as good, but still you get some power there immediately. You don't have to worry about anything else. Strata Scythe, going to make him massive like the Reforged Black Blade. And if you're looking for more of a finisher, look no further than Grafted Exoskeleton. You're going to give him Infect and +2/+2. This is why it's so valuable having a commander that you can keep getting out there for 3 mana no matter how many times he dies. May not seem like a decent Voltron option, but believe me, a lot of the reasons why Voltron decks fail is because they're unable to get their commander out there multiple times successfully. With Squee, what are you going to do? Are you going to counter him? I can just play him again for 3 mana. He's not worth a counter spell unless you're absolutely tapped out and you have nothing else to do. If we want to go back to Goblin Tribal, there's some surprisingly decent options with our artifacts. You could go with Door of Destinies because you are going to be casting Squee multiple times, and it is relevant. You're getting more counters on it, so once you do get Squee out there and eventually settle on him, he can be quite massive in addition to your other goblins like the ones you get off a Siege Gang Commander. We also have a Vanquisher's Banner. This one I would say is even better because every single time you're going to cast a creature spell of that type, which is Goblin, you're going to draw a card. So every time you cast Squee for 3 mana, you're going to draw a card. If you have other things like the sack outlets I mentioned before that can sacrifice Squee for mana, it's going to make it much easier to cast him over and over again. It's just a decent value engine there. That's pretty much the deck. It's nothing too crazy, nothing super complicated. Squee is a pretty fun budget option if you're looking to do that. I ended up putting some pretty decent cards in here, guys, like Perforos, Cage Sun, Hammer of Nazan, and still ended up not even breaking $150 on TCG Player. So I think it's pretty decent. You can even get much cheaper than that. I wouldn't play too many lands in here because, again, your commander's only 3 mana. So if you can keep the land count under 37, definitely do that. But objectively, being able to play your commander over and over again without the commander tax, it's amazing. It's why Derevi's so good. I mean, yes, she's technically good because she has an amazing trigger, but also because there's really no relevance with the commander tax, and you pretty much go unpunished. But anyway, you guys let me know what you think about Squee the Immortal. I think he's absolutely delightful. You guys have a wonderful day. Void here signing off. See you all next video.